from them. And it's a very serious crime. In fact, it's one of the largest, if not the largest, RICO case in New York's history.
According to the documents, he knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services, including arthroscopic surgeries.
It started with what should have been a simple, feel-good moment, a star-studded performance at a presidential inauguration. Carrie Underwood, America's country darling, walked onto that stage at Donald Trump's second swearing-in ceremony, her voice soaring with the opening notes of America the Beautiful. She stood there in her glittering gown, framed by the Capitol, her golden voice ringing out in tribute to a nation divided yet still searching for unity. But what should have been a shining moment of patriotic pride became the ignition point for one of the most explosive celebrity controversies in recent memory. What followed wasn't just backlash, it was a firestorm that would leave scorched earth in its wake, dragging everyone from The View's Sunny Hostin to Joe Rogan into its orbit and resulting in a lawsuit that rocked the entertainment world. And trust us, this wasn't just about a song.
The big inauguration news today is not Pelosi. Yesterday it was Michelle. It's Carrie Underwood. And apparently she's losing all sorts of fan groups. The LGBTQ community in particular, I guess, is very upset about the fact that she's agreed to sing at the inauguration. And she's saying, I love my country. I think this is a great chance to express that love and participate in a moment of unity.
The cracks appeared almost immediately. Carrie's performance hadn't even reached its final crescendo before social media erupted. Thousands of tweets and posts flooded the internet, some praising her for her courage and talent, but others were seething with fury. The hashtags boycott Carrie and Trump sympathizer began trending within hours. Fans who had once screamed her name at sold-out arenas were now ripping her apart in comment sections, accusing her of betrayal, of aligning herself with a man they called divisive, even dangerous. It wasn't just online trolls either. Major outlets picked up the story, rehashing the old divides, patriotism versus politics, entertainment versus activism. The performance, for some, was more than just a gig. It was a statement, and not everyone liked what it seemed to say.
Money off of it, so I get why she did it.
I say.
I mean, right? And it's country music. I think
I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I can't sing.
You would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every day.
But then came the gasoline on this already blazing fire, Sunny Hostin. On The View, Sunny didn't mince words. She took Carrie's choice to sing at Trump's inauguration and framed it as a personal affront. Sitting at the famous table, she leaned in and delivered her scathing critique. According to Sunny, this wasn't just a patriotic performance, it was a slap in the face to American values. She called it disappointing, even hypocritical, questioning how someone could claim to love their country while singing for someone she referred to as a convicted felon. That last line, those two words, detonated like a bomb across every platform imaginable. Clips from the show went viral within minutes, and Sunny, a seasoned media veteran, had to know what she was doing. This wasn't just commentary, it was a full-blown character assassination.
I feel pretty strongly about it. I think art is art, and you know, you have a right to perform where you want to perform. I agree with you, Joy. I can't sing a lick, but I certainly, and I have not been asked, but if I were asked, it would be a hard no.
And the fallout? It was immediate, vicious, and relentless. Carrie Underwood's fan base, famously loyal and fiercely protective, came out swinging. They flooded Sunny's social media accounts with angry comments, calling her biased, uninformed, and even accusing her of using her platform irresponsibly. The View's Instagram and Twitter pages were overrun with demands for an apology, or worse, her resignation. But Sunny wasn't backing down. In fact, her next appearance on the show only doubled down on her stance. She dismissed the backlash as misguided noise and reiterated her criticism, this time with an even sharper edge. She painted Carrie not just as complicit, but as someone actively choosing to align herself with a political figure who, in Sunny's eyes, represented everything wrong with the country. It wasn't just a critique anymore, it was personal.
Oh, he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange.
But if Sunny thought she could steer this narrative her way, she underestimated the storm she had unleashed. Because Carrie Underwood? She wasn't about to let this slide. In a move that shocked even her most devoted fans, Carrie made a rare public statement, breaking her usual silence on controversies. She defended her performance, framing it as an apolitical expression of her love for her country. But behind the scenes, something much bigger was brewing. Within days, Carrie's legal team filed a defamation lawsuit against Sunny Hostin and several other hosts of The View. The lawsuit claimed that Sunny's comments went beyond critique. They were false, damaging, and delivered with reckless disregard for the truth. And just like that, this wasn't just a celebrity feud anymore. It was a battle with real-world consequences.
So we know Sunny Hostin and her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, are preparing for a legal battle to fight accusations that he committed federal insurance fraud.
The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Defamation cases are rare, especially when it comes to public figures, who are expected to withstand a certain level of criticism. But Carrie's team argued that this wasn't just criticism. It was an attack on her character, her values, and even her career. The filing detailed how Sunny's remarks had negatively impacted Carrie's reputation, citing specific examples of canceled sponsorships, lost bookings, and the vitriol she endured online. And the legal language, it was brutal. The lawsuit painted a picture of Sunny as a media personality who had crossed the line, someone who wielded her platform irresponsibly, turning personal opinion into public condemnation without regard for the fallout.
And that's exactly what Carrie Underwood has taxed herself with. And let's be real, she hasn't come out and given any statement about her politics or how she feels about the 2024 election. So let her be her and let her love this country. We used to be under the umbrella of a shared love for country, but differences in politics. And now it's if you love your country, if you want to represent America, you're a white supremacist MAGA supporter.
Public opinion was, predictably, split. On one side, you had Carrie's supporters who saw the lawsuit as a brave stand against the unchecked power of media giants. They praised her for fighting back, calling her a role model for anyone who's been bullied or misrepresented. On the other side, Sunny's defenders argued that she was simply exercising her right to free speech, pointing out that her comments were part of a broader conversation about politics and patriotism. But while the debate raged on, one thing was clear. This wasn't going to be resolved quickly or quietly.
Stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures.
And then, as if the drama wasn't big enough already, in walked Joe Rogan. The podcast king, known for his no-holds-barred commentary, couldn't resist weighing in. On his massively popular show, Rogan ripped into Sunny Hostin and The View, calling them a sensationalist circus that thrived on outrage rather than meaningful dialogue. He mocked Sunny's comments, questioning her intelligence and credibility. It's all hypocrisy, he declared, accusing her of using Carrie as a scapegoat in a performative display of moral superiority. If the internet was already in flames, Rogan's comments were like throwing a tank of jet fuel onto the fire.
And they're essentially saying that it's a money grab. And they're also going to countersue for millions of dollars, $5 million plus.
Of course, Rogan didn't stop there. He took aim at The View as a whole, calling it a rabies-infested henhouse and accusing its hosts of pushing narratives designed to divide rather than inform. Clips of his rant went viral almost instantly, racking up millions of views as fans and critics alike dissected his every word. For some, Rogan was the voice of reason, saying what no one else in the industry had the guts to say. For others, he was just another loud voice adding fuel to an already volatile situation. But love him or hate him, one thing was undeniable. Rogan had just made himself a central figure in this increasingly messy saga.
But it's just, I mean, Pat, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to...
And so what began as a single performance had spiraled into a full-blown cultural flashpoint. Carrie Underwood was no longer just a singer, she was now a symbol in a larger battle about freedom of expression, media ethics, and the power of celebrity. Sunny Hostin, once just one voice among many on The View, had become a lightning rod for controversy. Her every word dissected and debated. And Joe Rogan? Well, he was the wild card, the outsider who had thrown his hat into the ring and, in doing so, amplified the stakes for everyone involved.
That this cohort of queer fans of Underwood have spent more than a decade believing the singer supported them. Now they're in the midst of unraveling what it means to be suddenly shocked into a reality that does not align with their own.
But this story wasn't just about the individuals at its center. It was about something larger, something that had been simmering beneath the surface of American culture for years. It was about the collision of politics and entertainment, the blurred lines between critique and defamation, and the question of who gets to control the narrative in a world where everyone has a platform. And as the lawsuits, debates, and viral moments continued to pile up, one thing was becoming increasingly clear. This wasn't just a controversy, it was a reckoning.
Emanuel denied the allegations via a statement through his lawyer, telling Daily Mail that his client, quote, denies each and every allegation and that the lawsuit is a blanket, scattershot, meritless lawsuit.
And just when you thought it couldn't spiral any further, the cracks within the walls of Sunny Hostin's world started to show. For all her boldness, for all her unwavering defiance, there were whispers, faint at first but quickly growing louder, that the heat wasn't just coming from the public. Inside the gilded halls of ABC, the network that broadcasts The View, things were getting uncomfortable. Sunny's fiery takes, once celebrated as her signature brand of unapologetic commentary, were starting to feel like a liability. Producers were reportedly holding closed-door meetings, weighing the fallout. Was she worth the noise? And more importantly, could the show itself survive the growing backlash? The signs of strain were everywhere. Behind the scenes, tensions were bubbling over. Insiders leaked rumors that ABC executives were split on how to handle Sunny. On one hand, she was ratings gold. Every time she opened her mouth, social media lit up. But on the other hand, the backlash wasn't just noise anymore. It was starting to stick. Advertisers were allegedly growing nervous, with whispers that a few deals had quietly been pulled in light of the controversy. The View had always been a lightning rod for cultural debates, but this was different. This wasn't just about politics, it was about trust. And trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild.
Of Sunny Hostin on The View, Tom, basically implicating her husband in this type of a scheme.
Sunny, for her part, seemed unfazed, or at least that's what she wanted the world to believe. On air, she held her ground, doubling down on her comments about Carrie Underwood and refusing to issue even the faintest apology. But off camera, the pressure was undeniable. Sources close to the production claimed that Sunny had become more isolated, her usual camaraderie with co-hosts now tinged with tension. Alyssa Fair-Griffin, who had already clashed with Sunny publicly on several occasions, was reportedly growing frustrated with the relentless controversies. Even Whoopi Goldberg, the show's anchor and a veteran at navigating scandal, was said to be losing patience. And then there was Joy Behar, who, while never shy about speaking her mind, was allegedly caught in the crossfire, trying to keep the peace while the ship seemed to veer wildly off course.
Now, he's just accused, and this accused in a lawsuit after some time of investigation could ultimately become a federal indictment.
But it wasn't just internal drama threatening to unravel The View. The lawsuit Carrie Underwood filed wasn't going away. In fact, it was gaining traction. Legal analysts began weighing in, dissecting every word of Sunny's comments and every line of Carrie's legal arguments. The consensus? Sunny might be in real trouble. Defamation lawsuits are notoriously hard to win. But Carrie's legal team had crafted a case that was razor sharp. They weren't just going after Sunny's words, they were going after the entire culture of The View, painting it as a platform that thrived on outrage and recklessness at the expense of truth. And while ABC publicly stood by Sunny, the lawsuit posed a threat that went far beyond her. If the case went to trial, it wouldn't just be Sunny in the hot seat, it would be the entire network. And then, as if the stakes weren't high enough, Joe Rogan came back swinging. His initial tirade against Sunny and The View had already gone viral, but he wasn't done. On a follow-up episode of his podcast, Rogan upped the ante, releasing what he called receipts to back up his claims about The View's hypocrisy. He played old clips of the show, highlighting moments where the hosts had contradicted themselves or shifted their stances, depending on the political climate. One particularly damning clip showed the panel warmly welcoming Donald Trump during his pre-presidency days, laughing and joking with him like old friends. Rogan played it side by side with their current rhetoric, calling it a masterclass in opportunism. The internet predictably erupted. For every person defending Sunny, there were two more sharing Rogan's clips, calling out what they saw as blatant double standards. But Rogan didn't stop there. He took aim at Sunny personally, digging into her background and questioning her credibility. He accused her of using her platform to settle personal scores, calling her approach performative outrage disguised as moral high ground. And while some dismissed his comments as nothing more than another attention grab, others couldn't help but wonder if he had a point. Was Sunny's criticism of Carrie Underwood really about patriotism, or was it something deeper, something more personal? Rogan's comments opened the floodgates for speculation, and soon Sunny's name was trending again, this time accompanied by hashtags questioning her integrity.
Okay. Oh, no one else had any
So
thoughts?
there we
No
are.
thoughts?
We've had people like Reba McEntire come on
Yes.
and say that, she doesn't want to talk about politics. She just wants to sing, she wants to perform, she wants to make people feel good. And I respect that. And then we've had people like Dolly Parton, and I think you asked her, or
Are you a
maybe,
feminist?
are you a feminist? And she
She
said,
said, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Meanwhile, inside ABC, the tension was reaching a boiling point. Executives were reportedly scrambling to contain the fallout, but the damage was already done. Ratings for The View were holding steady, but the show's reputation was taking a hit. Comment sections under the show's official posts were flooded with criticism, with viewers demanding accountability. Some called for Sunny to be suspended or even fired, while others went further, questioning whether The View itself had outlived its usefulness. The once beloved panel of outspoken women was now being painted as a toxic environment, more interested in stirring the pot than fostering meaningful dialogue.
The View co-host Sunny Hostin's husband, Emmanuel Hostin, has been accused of federal insurance fraud.
And then came the leaks, rumors that ABC was considering drastic changes to salvage the show's reputation. Some claim that producers were quietly exploring the possibility of replacing Sunny, though finding someone with her blend of legal expertise and media savvy would be no small feat. Others speculated that the network might go even further, reformatting the show entirely, or even pulling the plug if the backlash continued to grow. The View had weathered scandals before, but this one felt different. This wasn't just a storm, it was an earthquake, threatening to shake the very foundation of the show. But while the drama surrounding The View was captivating the public, Sunny herself had another problem brewing, one that had nothing to do with Carrie Underwood or Joe Rogan. Her husband, Dre Emmanuel Hostin, had been named in a sweeping federal lawsuit accusing him of insurance fraud. The allegations were serious, involving claims that he had performed unnecessary surgeries and billed insurers for treatments that were either exaggerated or entirely fabricated. While Sunny publicly defended her husband, calling the lawsuit a baseless attack on his integrity, the timing couldn't have been worse. The allegations only added fuel to the fire, giving Sunny's critics more ammunition to question her credibility.
This is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York. You guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia.
And as the lawsuits piled up and the controversies continued to escalate, one question hung in the air. How much more could Sunny, The View, and ABC take? The pressure was mounting from every direction: legal battles, public backlash, internal strife, and there seemed to be no end in sight. Would Sunny emerge from this maelstrom unscathed, or was she on the brink of a fall from grace? Would The View survive the storm, or was this the beginning of the end for one of daytime television's most iconic shows? This is where you come in. What do you think? Is Sunny Hostin a victim of unfair scrutiny, or has she finally gone too far? Is Carrie Underwood's lawsuit a bold stand for accountability, or just another celebrity feud blown out of proportion? And what about Joe Rogan? Truth teller or troublemaker? Let us know your thoughts down below, and as always, stay tuned. This story is far from over. See you in the next one.